Have you ever found yourself wondering why some people just seem to be magnets for manipulative relationships? It can feel totally random, right? Like you just had some bad luck. But what if I told you it's not random at all? Let's get into this, because the psychology behind it is absolutely fascinating. And honestly, once you get it, it's a total game changer. This right here is the first and most important thing to really let sink in. If you've been targeted by a manipulator, it's not a sign of bad luck. It's because of very specific, often invisible psychological patterns they are instinctively looking for. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that whole process. Okay, so here's the big misunderstanding we need to clear up. Manipulators aren't actually looking for weak people. Why? Well, because weakness can be temporary, it's unreliable. What they're really searching for is something way more valuable to them: predictability. They want someone whose reactions are so consistent, they're practically guaranteed. And that brings us to the core of this whole thing, the predictability pattern. So why is this their holy grail? Simple. Predictability means they don't have to work so hard. It gives them a reliable roadmap to your inner world, letting them get exactly what they want with the least amount of effort. They need to know that if they push button X, you will predictably give them reaction Y every single time. Think of it like this. Your predictable reactions, always being the one to apologize, always jumping in to fix things, always backing down to avoid a fight. That creates a map for them, an emotional GPS, if you will. It shows them exactly which buttons to press to get the reaction they need. So it's not about being strong or weak. It's about how easy you are to read. You're making their job easy. So what do these predictable patterns actually look like? Well, funny enough, they often disguise themselves as really beautiful, really human personality traits. Let's break down the big ones that light up a manipulator's radar. Okay, take a look at this list. And be honest, do any of these sound a little familiar? Maybe in yourself, maybe in someone you know. Now, these are not flaws. They're what make us human. But when they don't have healthy boundaries, they can send out a kind of signal. Let's zoom in on two of the most powerful ones they scan for: excessive empathy and conflict avoidance. First up, excessive empathy. Look, empathy is a superpower. It's what connects us. But a manipulator sees empathy without boundaries as a lever they can pull. They have a sixth sense for when your deep desire to help and heal other people is stronger than your instinct to protect yourself. And believe me, they test for it, and they test for it early. And this is where it gets really clever, or, sneaky. Here's how the test works. They might drop a sob story or hint at some past trauma really soon after meeting you. Now, you might think they're opening up, trying to build a real connection, but they're not. They're observing. They're just watching to see if you lean in, if your voice gets softer, if you immediately jump to offer comfort. If you do, that's their green light. The next huge one is conflict avoidance. You know the person I'm talking about, right? The one who will do almost anything to keep things smooth. They'll laugh off a rude comment, apologize when they did absolutely nothing wrong, or just completely drop their own needs just to keep the peace. And this is the real kicker. Why is this so attractive to them? Because a manipulator doesn't have to be loud or aggressive if you're already offering them your emotional cooperation on a silver platter. All it takes is a heavy sigh from them, maybe a disappointed look, and the conflict avoider just folds. They do all the manipulator's emotional work for them. And look, this isn't just some theory I'm throwing out there. The research on this is pretty mind-blowing. A major 2020 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology looked at thousands of people and their relationship dynamics. And they found that one group of people is 70% more likely to end up in these kinds of situations. 70%. So what this chart is showing us is just staggering. It shows the people who score high in empathy and agreeableness, the ones who are just naturally wired for harmony and connection, are a whopping 70% more likely to stay in emotionally imbalanced dynamics, a lot of the time without even realizing what's going on. Their own beautiful wiring makes them loyal, forgiving, and predictable.
Okay, so we know what they're looking for, but how do they know they found it in you? Well, they don't guess. They run a series of small, almost invisible little social experiments to confirm that their map of your mind is actually accurate.
Okay, get ready, because these are the 5 little tripwires they set. First is the boundary test, a small request that's just a little bit uncomfortable to see if you'll comply. Then comes the guilt test, a comment like, "Oh, I don't want to be a bother," designed to make you rush in and reassure them. After that, the emotional shift test. They'll pull away suddenly just to see if you'll chase them. Then there's the silence test, where they go quiet after you state a need, using that pressure to see if you'll cave. And finally, the attention test. They shower you with attention and then pull it away to see if you start craving it. Once you learn to spot these tests, you really can't unsee them. Okay, that was a lot, and it might sound a little bleak. But here's the good news, the really good news. We've seen the problem, we get the patterns and the tests. Now, for the most important part, how do you break their blueprint? The answer doesn't require a personality transplant. It just takes a little awareness and a couple of very simple tools. So how do you do it? How do you basically take away their map and reclaim your own power? Well, the answer is surprisingly simple. You don't have to become a colder, meaner person. You just have to become less predictable. And this, right here, is the single most powerful tool you have. A simple 3-second pause. That's it. When you're asked for something, when you start to feel that pressure building, when you notice one of those emotional shifts, just pause. That tiny little gap of time throws off their entire script. It signals that you're aware. And if there's one thing a manipulator hates, it's awareness. And if you need a line to go with that pause, here's your new best friend. I need time to think. That's it. It's calm, it's totally fair, and it's a rock-solid boundary. It shows them that you are no longer operating on autopilot. This simple little phrase just dissolves their power because it breaks your pattern of instant compliance. At the end of the day, breaking their blueprint is about blowing up the 3 core assumptions they're operating on. When you pause, you prove your reactions are not set in stone. When you state your needs calmly, you show that you can and will protect yourself. And by just observing their tests instead of reacting to them, you prove that you won't chase connection at any price. And that brings us to, I think, the most empowering idea in all of this. The traits we've talked about, your empathy, your loyalty, your desire to connect, these aren't flaws you need to get rid of. They are your strengths. They just need to be paired with sharp, conscious awareness. And look, it's so important to know that these patterns don't just come out of nowhere, right? They're often rooted deep in our past, maybe in childhood conditioning, where we learned to be a people pleaser to stay safe, or in our attachment style, or even a self-concept we built around being the responsible one. Understanding the roots isn't about blaming anyone. It's about setting yourself free. Your history doesn't have to be your destiny. So if you take away just one thing today, please let it be this. Manipulators don't choose you because you're weak or broken or naive. They choose you because you're empathetic and loyal and idealistic. They choose you because you're deeply human. They are drawn to your light. The goal here isn't to dim that light or to become cynical or to build massive walls around your heart. The antidote is to make your light sharper, to take all of those beautiful human qualities you have and pair them with the clarity and awareness that protects them. Now that is real power. So your awareness is already shifting. You're seeing things differently. But our journey into this topic is really just getting started, because the next step is to go from understanding why they choose you to understanding what's actually going on inside their mind. We'll see you for that one.